your chair? Do we want to switch?
No, I own the left side.
Okay, we'll go left side, right side then. Okay.
Thanks for coming. Well, we've talked a lot about the cloud. You're the cloud guru at Microsoft.
Okay.
Everyone I talk about Microsoft says they care about the cloud. Why do you need? So we've heard from SAP, HP. They're a little more ambivalent on needing to have an initiative. Right? They almost take it as a given. But you are trying to create a platform almost. So can you tell us why that's important?
Sure.
Why are you guys so concerned about that?
So I think one of the key things, and it's a great question, is we talk about the other people in the industry talking about how SaaS has kind of led to the emergence of cloud, but we see this as like the next generation platform, and you and I had talked before about this, but we believe platform is important because it allows people to build on top of. So just as Windows was a platform, just as the web has been a platform, we think cloud is a platform. So Windows Azure is our next generation platform. And when we say we've got a tagline at Microsoft that says we're all in on the cloud, we're really serious about this. Every single piece of software we ship is going cloud enabled. It either already is or will be shortly. And what that means for me is my job is to kind of get developers really interested in that. Everything's cloud, baby. I mean, every day for me is cloud. And I will say, because we just did the mobile piece here, and I was really impressed with all the mobile things, for us, mobile is the perfect client for cloud. We see those things kind of going hand in hand. So for Microsoft, it might be strange to hear, but cloud isn't just a big bet, it is the big bet for the company. And everything from our CEO on down has kind of embraced this.
Again, just want to remind the audience, there's 2 microphones on both sides, so please come up and ask questions. Feel free, don't be bashful. Let's ask Microsoft the hard questions about cloud. Now that you're actually embracing the cloud and on-demand stuff, it's really interesting. So talk a little bit about Azure and the hybrid nature of it.
Sure.
You've been talking about public and private clouds. You talk to folks like Google, and they'll say, private clouds don't matter, because what we found at Google is that public clouds are, we haven't had a lot of breaches of the cloud yet. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of that and why you're making such a big deal about that?
Sure. I think there are 2, without going, we could turn this into an hour-long conversation pretty easily, but there have been a couple of cloud conferences here in the Valley where, the private versus public, debates kind of raged, and it is interesting because we've got a number of people in the industry that are saying everything's going public. And then there are a couple of different really obvious scenarios that just say, wow, it would be a weird world if it happens. So for example, you talk to anybody in the defense industry, and they're looking at, if we're selling to the government's going to be very careful about where they put their data, and public really isn't a solution there. The other one is healthcare. And people just get scared thinking about what happens to their data if it's put out in a place where other people can have access to it. So Microsoft's kind of embraced this model where we see that there's going to be a hybrid world. We see there are going to be private data centers and private clouds, just as there are going to be public clouds. And I think the unique piece of technology that we're starting to see emerge, both from Microsoft and other companies, is this notion that you'll be able to run your application distributed across both private and public instances of cloud. So keeping the private data private, but maybe be able to anonymize some of that so that you can run, large-scale data, kind of data operations on them in the public cloud. So the world that we see clearly is aiming towards this. You're going to see private clouds, and you're going to probably see, thousands of them based on what kind of companies where they want to run their data. And then you're going to see a lot of, very large public clouds as well. And some of those are going to be run by companies, some are going to be run by governments, right? And you kind of look at the U.S. initiative and what they're doing around cloud as well. So, we see this as a really interesting world. And then we see the linking of those things as being the piece that we're going to be able to offer that's unique. Being able to run your application, your private instance privately, but be able to use resources in the public cloud as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, you mentioned healthcare and government being 2 specific areas that care.
They're the easiest ones people can kind of grasp.
Okay, grasp. Yeah, because they're regulated, and but you didn't explain reasons why people really need private. So
Sure.
They want it, but why? Why do they want it? So you talk to the city and county of San Francisco, and the CIO was telling us last night, but they care because they're regulated, and there's a lot of concern about that. So there's probably very little way for them to get beyond that. But if you take away the 25% of the economy that is government, and which is a significant market, of course, huge market, healthcare, maybe it's even 30%. But whatever it is, it's huge. You can't ignore it. But is there a reason why you need private?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. And I think there are a couple companies in the very financial institutions been around for a long time. And when you go talk to their CIOs, what they'll tell you is that they actually don't do credit cards, they don't do debit cards, they don't do checking accounts. What they do is they manage their customer relationship. And for them, the thing that they don't want to do, the one asset those companies have, are really their customer list, right? And when you think of a financial institution, no, it's the money they manage. That's actually not the case. It's the customers they have. And in the cases of these couple of companies, I mean, very large financial institutions, their view of the public cloud is that's something we want to go run scenarios on, but we want to run our business in our private instance, cloud-based technology, self-service for our developers and for our managers, but we see that as being the huge added value for us. If we can drive utilization in our own data centers from 20 to 25%, even virtualization maybe got you to 40%, the cloud will get you maybe the next 60, 70% of utilization. Huge win for those companies. And that's an area where the regulation isn't so much. It's their choice whether they want to run their next product scenarios and what it's going to be successful, what it's going to take to be successful, privately or publicly. But they look at it as, this is about our customers, and we want to maintain that list. We would never want to outsource that. We would never want to put it up in a public cloud.
Yeah, we just heard from Jack Dorsey, who's running a public very open company in Twitter, but now newly to Square, just taking a whole lot of time dealing with all that security. Yeah. So then you're adding another 10, 20 percentage points on that market share that need to be private, right? Essentially. So no, talking about cloud management, can we talk a little bit about that? So you've got the cloud, you've got Azure, but you see Homer Windblad, you see Mayfield and Menlo Ventures, two big venture capital firms making a whole lot of cash off a company like 3Bar. Storage management. Can you talk a little bit about where you see opportunities, or are you going to just leave it with the venture capitalists to sort out?
Oh, not at all. So one of the interesting things about my jobs, I think I get the best job in the world. So my goal in life is actually to find all the really cool companies out there doing interesting things. We'd like them to use Microsoft technology, many of them don't, that's okay. But the idea is we kind of get a view of what's going on, and clearly when you look at cloud, you're seeing a number of large vendors, whether it's Microsoft with Azure, whether it's Google, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's Amazon, and each of those clouds have unique instances and unique characteristics about it. So one of the opportunities that's opened up in this space is around management of those kind of heterogeneous environments that people are starting to run. And we actually see startups starting to look at utilizing certain clouds for one part of their business, but another part of the cloud for another. And that's actually something within Azure that we're looking at very carefully is, how can we make it easy for people to move instances, into Azure, manage them easily, but there's no lock-in there. And I know that's I'm sure there are a number of you out there going, what, Microsoft no lock-in? I mean, we really believe that we have the most open cloud on the planet. We run PHP, we run Java in our own cloud. That's pretty cool. And so the idea here is that I see one of the opportunities, and clearly showing up in the Valley right now, number of small companies starting to get into that heterogeneous management of clouds. So their answer is, doesn't matter what cloud you pick, we'll help you manage your instances there. Huge opportunity.
Right. Yeah, so Microsoft's cool. Now you spent some time at Sun.
Yeah, I did. Actually, a long time at Sun.
So how is it getting over Sun's culture and moving into Microsoft? I mean, how does it feel? Is it a little stodgy? I mean, people talk about, they're complaining problems here on Microsoft Explorer. How is the culture changing for you?
So I would say that there's a couple of things that are really important. So I spent 18 years at Sun. My last job at Sun was actually running part of their cloud business, which is kind of where I got kind of this cloud addiction. I think the thing that's really interesting is when you look at Microsoft is there's a perception, there's a reality, and certainly in the Valley and in a number of the forward-thinking teams like Bing, et cetera, Microsoft is clearly a changed company. We look at this as, we want to be out in front, we want startups to work with us, we want enterprises to be our customers, but our goal in life, and through programs like BizSpark where we make everything free for startups, the idea is we want to drive the next generation of innovation as partners. We'll do some of that in our own app space, but we expect, there's a very famous quote that came out of the Valley years and years ago, happened to be by a Sun founder, but essentially is, not all the smart people are going to work for you, right? So what's your strategy to work with the community? And that's something I've embraced my entire career. I look at the people here and go, I've already seen 10 companies I want to follow up with on, that's really cool, how can we help kind of thing.
Great. Let's talk about, again, questions, please. Oh, we do have questions. Go ahead.
Hi. I can hear you say that you would like to get the smart people to work with you. However, Microsoft has a history of getting people to come and work for them as developers, outside developers,
right,
and then having their own interests, their own applications, either organically, internally produced, or externally acquired, and going back to their developers and say, move up the stack, we're taking this stuff. How do you react to developers who say, I have a long memory?
Yeah, so certainly, you know, I've only been at Microsoft for a short time now, but my view of this is that it is a change company. We can clearly lay out a pretty decent roadmap, especially in cloud, for people that want to work with us on where we're going to innovate and where we expect other people to be able to innovate. In addition, there's a large effort here in Silicon Valley and with the startup community around the United States to kind of be able to disseminate that both to innovators and entrepreneurs, but also to the VC community, so that they're recommending to their client companies where they think where Microsoft's going to go forward and where, you know, individual entrepreneurs are going to go forward. So I hear it. I want to say that in my time at Microsoft, I have not seen that directly yet. I'll put the word "yet" on there because certainly Microsoft's a big company and does a lot of innovation in a lot of interesting spaces. But there's a clear sensitivity to making sure that Microsoft can provide the best partnership available to entrepreneurs, to enterprise, to our ISV community, to customers. And so I would say, give us another chance. I would love to talk to you, you know, help you kind of, you know, if there was something that happened in the past, I can't help with that, but I'd love to help you.
I'm not an ISV.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you very much. Good answer.
Yeah.
Microsoft's an underdog now.
Well, I like to think so. I like that.
Apple's more valuable, right?
Oh.
I don't know, is Google catching up?
Oh, goodness gracious.
No, okay, let's get off the bashing. So let's talk about the cloud again, because you're the guru of the cloud and you're on the cutting edge of everything that's going on. So I'd love to let's talk about this for the entrepreneurs out here. You know, what's next? There's all this data in the cloud, right? So all of a sudden, you know, what used to be, you know, hived off in these cordoned off sections and back-end servers of companies, right?
Sometimes even in vaults.
In vaults, right? And that's the norm. But all this stuff is maybe crawling, and if you're the platform and you're public, mainly, you know, you've got some private, but you've got a public cloud where all these data sets are put together. You can probably do some really rich mining of data. If you really think about all the check-in data, location, all that intense data. Can you talk about what you're seeing? Is that just too far away?
No,
or are you seeing it now?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see it now. So sorry, I get excited when you start bringing this up, so I start talking over you. I'm sorry. It's your conference. I got to be polite. So one of the interesting things that we see is that data as a service in the cloud is going to be a really interesting thing. You know, and you know, listening to some of the pitch companies, some of the companies are starting to touch on this here. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow with the social part coming into this, because I think we're going to see some more of that. But the concept behind the cloud is kind of being an aggregator for disassociated data is a really powerful one. Google's experimented with this, Amazon's experimented with this. Microsoft has a project called Project Dallas that actually not only is experimenting with this, but building a marketplace for data sets. And you kind of think, I like to refer to it as kind of my unloved data sets. So if you think of, you know, a large petrochemical company that may have done, you know, drilling exploration around the world for the last 80 years, they've probably gone through those data sets 100 times over to find where they can afford to drill and make money, right? But when you start talking about some of the clean tech companies starting to look at how maybe they can pull more out in a more efficient way, or how they can, you know, land reuse, et cetera, that data suddenly becomes valuable. Rather than recapturing all that again, maybe it's the opportunity to put that data set up in the cloud, put it as part of a marketplace, allow access per use. And some of these other companies then, where the single biggest investment they would ever make in their existence would be building their own data set, can now leverage what's come before. And so we see that kind of data as a service as being one of the really unique attributes that cloud brings. We've got this project called Project Dallas that will not only allow for people to gain access to this, but also build a marketplace around that, because that data is inherently valuable. And it may be more valuable for some uses than others, so we can see things like aggregated use. And we expect developers to start building applications where the data isn't theirs, but the view on that data is unique enough that they can actually generate revenue from it.